G'day campers, are you out there looking for a rooftop tent and starting to find from the pictures they all look the same? Well, from a picture, you're right, they do all look the same. The difference between brand to brand, model to model, is what they're constructed with, how they're constructed, and what features come along for the ride. One of the features that 23Zero use is LST, Light Suppression Technology. It returns you the ability to turn out the lights until you're good and ready to wake up in the morning. That means you get a sleep in when you're out camping. Unheard of in most rooftop tents. Go out, do your homework, find what features work best for you, and make a good choice. Bye for now.
Hey, everybody.
What's happening?
This is the show. I don't know what this is Thursday night, so I don't know what we're calling tonight.
I don't know what we're supposed to do either. I'm lost.
All right. I need you to talk so I can do some things behind the scenes.
All right. So, hey, welcome to the show, everybody. It is Thursday night, which is a little bit out of the norm for Michael and I, but we thought we would have a extra special guest tonight. And before we bring that person on, I want to do a couple of little housekeeping things. So let's talk about a couple of things. One, thanks to our sponsors, 23Zero, Opus Trailer, Overland Attic. We really appreciate you and everything that you do for us. So make sure you go out and visit them and hit up their websites and buy a new trailer, buy a new tent, order a bunch of stuff, that kind of good stuff. Anyway, what else was I going to say about that? I can't remember now, Michael. Hey, all right. We already got a couple people jumping in there.
Awesome.
So anyway, so without further ado, let's bring.
Well, we got stuff going. You bringing him in already?
Well,
you gonna throw him to the wolves already?
Yeah, I say let's throw him to the wolves.
We got the all over. We got the. let me try.
Oh, we got the coffee thing.
We got the all over coffee meet coming up Saturday at Edmond Pickup, 9 to 12. Some of us are going to camp the night before, so Friday night. If you want to camp or just come by, totally do it. There's plenty of room, and yes, in the evening, Friday evening, Saturday morning, Friday evening.
Good morning from Montana.
Yeah, you just moved up there. He was at the coffee event. And then the weekend after, we've got the big Iron Overland Rally in West Mineral, Kansas. That's going to be a big deal. Today, I put on my Mountain Hatch tailgate lid.
Nice.
It's pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited. Excited. So I'll get to try a few new things out Friday night when we camp. My Timbo Tusk and stuff that I got from Blue Line Overland from their raffle. And we got the Rock Pals that we got to take and get some more shots of and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a good time. I'm ready. You got anything else going on? You're about to leave town.
I'm leaving town. I'm going to do the Opus Adventure run. I'm not going to be home for 2 months. As a matter of fact, Casey doesn't know it, but I may try to come up and see Casey if he's going to be around. Did I just let the cat out of the bag?
Yeah. Well, everybody knows I'm sharing it. So bring him in.
Hey, let's bring him in. Woo! Party! Look here.
What is up, brothers?
What's going on, man?
It is the man himself.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday is right. You know what? Today is my Friday. I'm just saying.
Is it really?
Yeah, today's my Friday. Hanging out with the kid today and tomorrow afternoon, and then we've got that coffee thing. So I'll be getting all my gear ready and ready to camp. Where'd he go?
He's there.
Did you guys lose me already?
Where'd he go? There we go.
I got him.
I can't. It's too soon for me to have said something that offended someone already.
I know. I was like, what'd he do? We warned him, but wow.
Oh, man, yeah. All right. So for those of you who don't know and been living under a rock, we got Casey with Coyote Works, the man himself, the Mr. History Maker on the trail.
Yes. Hey, can I ask a question about that?
Totally.
I love that you obviously have a love for outdoors and obviously you have a love for history. Tell us about how that love for history started.
Yeah.
Man, I think, that goes way back when I was a little kid. I grew up and we lived out in the country. And so I didn't have a lot of like other kids to play with. So, it was my imagination and reading books and then going out and playing in the woods. So I think I grew up, my heroes were, Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone. And, I read about those guys, and I just had a fascination with kind of the settlement of our country from the time I was a little kid, man. That just the whole idea of people like leaving everything that was comfortable and heading out west, out to unknown territory to make a life for themselves has just always been a fascinating deal for me.
Yeah, and how the other question that I have, the bigger question I think that I have, how in the world do you find some of these places? Because sometimes
That's
like
what I
the
wanna know.
foundation is only like an inch tall or it's half a one. How do you find these?
Yeah, man, a lot of that is just years and years of experience and just kind of developing a little bit of a feel for where things are likely to be. But
Yeah.
it all starts with the research and the stories. And the good news is, like, for me, is I love, what I'll do when I'm not editing video or I'm not out in the field finding stuff is I'm usually reading, local history. And a lot of that history is kind of it's a mixture of like fact and fiction and legend and everything.
Yeah.
But I know the country well enough that I live in that, like, a lot of times I'll read a story and it'll say, whatever the
Some kind of creek turns this way and you're like, I know that spot.
Exactly. Yeah. The stagecoach robbers rode off of the north side of West Butte or whatever. And
So to start looking around there.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. And I'm sure it gets to the point where you just look at a landscape and you can go 75% chance that something was there.
No question, man. A lot of times now, like I'll be driving through random areas and I'll just get that, like, hey, if I was a homesteader, that's where I would have built my homestead.
Yeah.
I found enough of them over the years where I'll look over there and say, hey, that little terrain feature, I bet there was a camp there, or I bet there was a homestead there or something. And I'd say at least 20% of the time I'm right.
Yeah. Yeah, like an opening where there's some trees, like there's probably some like even telltale signs of way the grass is, or or where it's not, just those kind of things. So, because it's funny how long of an impact that will have sometimes on an area.
Oh yeah, especially out here in the high desert country where we have so little precipitation and so little organic growth around here that, signs of history lay around for a long time here. And the other thing is like the environment, when it's not disturbed drastically by man, like really hasn't changed that much over, the past couple of 100 years.
It's the way they saw it.
That's right. That's right. So some place that looks like it would have provided, some resource, had a spring by it, had some trees, had some grass or something. Some place that looks like a cool place to camp now likely looked like a cool place to camp 150 years ago or 200 years ago too.
That's a good point. That's a real good point.
Yeah, even a blind squirrel gets an occasional acorn.
I always say blind squirrel gets a nut, but we'll be polite and say acorn.
Hey everybody, we have got to do our mandatory whiskey shot.
So listen, Casey,
yes, sir.
we're purveyors of high camp flasks and oil fire, and Michael got us all hooked on oil fire. So
oil fire whiskey,
if we could meet up,
it is amazing. It's good stuff.
At least try it.
All right. Well, I won't. I'll leave a little element of mystery as to what's in my cup.
That works.
Woo! That'll warm you up. Okay, I'm sharing stuff, so keep talking.
All right. All right. Very good. Now, with all the history and with all that, you started doing the overlanding thing, whatever it is we want to call it, exploring, adventuring. Overlanding was really just to be able to bring us together so we kind of know what we're talking about.
Hey,
Agreed.
wait. 2 words. Mason Berry.
Oh, you did that just so he would. This is a guy that listens all the time, and he might not be in the chat, but we say his name, and within
And
5
poof,
minutes he shows up.
He's there.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's the
That's
craziest thing. It is
It's
the
actually kind of
craziest
creepy.
thing.
If you want to know
And
the
then
truth,
he'll
it's
start
kind of
calling me or
creepy.
something. Yeah, if we don't respond to him.
And then he
It's-
sends us pictures of him grilling with nothing but an apron on and a pair of boots and smoking a cigar. And I mean, when I say nothing else, that's nothing.
and
else.
he's a very robust man. Let's just put it that way.
I like it. I like
He ain't
it.
missed too many waffles and peanut butter, has he?
No. So when did you start adding, like whenever you started, is it just been from the beginning when you're exploring that you've been looking for history? I mean, did they both come together, or did you kind of do the off-roading thing and then we're like, wait a minute, I can go explore and find stuff?
Oh no, man! I would say the history thing, started first because that started even before I was old enough to drive or have my own rig.
Yeah.
We lived out in the country, and I used to explore around it was wide open land all around our house. So I'd kick around back in the hills with my rifle and find arrowheads and find old fire rings and stuff. And so I loved the history then. And it just basically, when I got old enough to be able to start driving my own pickup truck off of the place, my range just expanded exponentially. And my dad, I grew up, I come from I like to say I come from a long line of outdoorsmen. My grandpa, my dad, my uncles, they were all outdoors guys too. And my dad in particular was also really into the history. So when I was young, I remember even, probably as little as like my earliest memories, him taking us out on trips to old ghost towns and things like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it's just allowed you to have further reach and be able to go places that you just wouldn't be able to.
Definitely. And that is one thing I would say that has been really cool to me about how vehicles have evolved. Like I would say, the vehicles that we have access to today, the capabilities of those vehicles and the range and everything and the reliability of them is just really like, I don't even think twice about jumping in my Jeep and going on a 4 or 5 day solo trip someplace where I may not see another person for 3 or 4 days. And man, I tell you, back in the days when I was driving my 1972 Dodge Power Wagon, that would have been a little bit riskier of an endeavor.
Yeah, that could be. What are you doing, Lee? Why do you keep messing with stuff?
I know.
You're messing with the screen, man.
Hey,
It freaked me out.
I'm plucking
It
this
scared
chicken.
me.
Look, I'm plucking
On
this
my
chicken.
end, it just looks like he put himself on there as the main attraction.
I know it's kind of it's all about Lee. So it's either hashtag
Jesus.
it's all about Lee or hashtag it's all Lee's fault.
It's Lee's fault. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
God.
usually what happens.
the hate.
That's awesome.
It's real.
Now, and it's very rare that there's an overlanding show and none of the three people drive a Toyota.
That is awesome. That is
Yeah.
No Toyotas.
No Toyotas here.
No Jeeps.
I don't know if you
No,
guys
there
are
is a
like-
Jeep. He drives
I-
Jeeps. Calm
I was
down.
being sarcastic because you don't have a Jeep anymore, and I refuse to
Yeah.
drive a Jeep. But I know he's got a Jeep.
Yeah.
So I used to trail around in a Jeep Liberty.
Nothing wrong
and
with
it was
that, man.
it was a lot of fun. But we went on the Enchanted Rockies trip, and every light on the dash went on right when I got home.
Listen,
Like right when I got home.
there's times in life when people do like rain dances because you want it to rain. And on that trail, we were doing fire dances for the Jeep.
Hoping
We
that
just
sucker'd catch on
hoping
fire.
that son of a bitch would catch on fire so we could just leave it.
Only
And
we would have been fine with it, unlike you were when your Jeep caught on fire.
I was going to say, I don't know if you guys might be the only two people in the universe that may or may not know that I actually had a Jeep that caught on fire.
Oh no, we know.
I know. I actually watched that video like right after you posted it, and I thought to myself, this guy has maintained his composure better than anybody I could imagine. So you can tell you've been trained, obviously, in some
Well,
ways.
you can hear every once in a while you can hear a little nervousness. in
Well,
his
you can
voice.
hear a little
like
breathing.
there's a little bit of like
There's a little heavy
oh
breathing.
shit, oh
but,
shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, you
there-
don't walk
yeah.
through something like that without your heart rate going up a little bit.
Yeah. What do I need to get out of the truck? What do I need to get out of it? Yeah.
first
Oh.
things first, set up the camera on the tripod so I can capture this shit.
Priorities,
Because
man.
nobody's gonna believe me.
Yeah, insurance reasons. Now, I want to ask this: have you changed the way you set up the inside of your vehicle now after the fire? Meaning, like, you know, like things that you were like, oh shit, I really need to get that out quickly. Have you changed the configuration at all since the fire?
Not a lot, but what I would say is like I've always kind of had that mindset of keeping a little bit of emergency gear stored in the vehicle in a way that's easy to grab if you needed to in a hurry. What I would say though is like over years of nothing serious happening, what often happens is you get lax.
You get lazy, yeah.
And so at that point that happened, there was a lot of stuff in the rig that I really wish I would have had more accessible.
Yeah.
So I kind of did some rearranging with stuff like that. And it's little stuff like, you know, I usually always have 3 or 4 bang bangs in the rig with me when I'm out there, you know. And so like on that particular trip, I had a whole bunch of ammo, for example, that was, you know, buried down too deep in the loadout to get out. So there's some things like that I'm just more cognizant of and have gone back to, okay, let me make sure the really critical stuff is at a place that's easy to grab and also really valuable stuff, because that was the other part of that experience was really, you don't realize how much you have tied up in all that gear until you lose it. And then the thing is like, if you think about it, you know, a lot of that gear that you have in your rig when you're camping, you bought it one item at a time over a long period of time, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you spent $80 on a Leatherman multi-tool at one point, and then, you know, you spent $200 on a pair of binoculars some other time. So you don't realize necessarily, or at least I didn't,
how much money you've spent.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you start adding everything up and you're like, I got to get this all at one time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And all of a sudden the realization sets in that you've just had, you know, maybe a good portion of your lifetime worth of gear acquisition go up in smoke.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, how fast was it from the time that you noticed it was a fire? Not necessarily just the smoke, but that you noticed it was a fire until you could not get in the Jeep anymore?
Super fast. I would say like a minute.
Really?
Like, really fast. Like that was one of the most mind-blowing things to me was once the smoke started coming through the firewall on the inside of the Jeep, once I saw the first little flames kind of come through the dash, from that moment until the Jeep was completely engulfed in flames was literally probably like not much more than a minute.
Wow.
Yeah. So that when you think about, you know, how much time you have to grab gear and stuff, you know, that's kind of the time frame is not very long.
Yeah, jump out, open up the back, get stuff out, or wherever it is. Grab it from the seat next to you, whatever it, you know. I mean, usually my stuff's pretty close to the driver's seat.
Yep.
You know, just in case I do have to get out and run, you know, or whatever.
And that's a really good program. And that's a good way to do it is keep, you know, a lot of your critical stuff within arm's reach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want the things that I can survive. I mean, those are the things I need first. Because like you were all by yourself.
Yep.
You know, and how long did it take?
I am most of the time.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get to where you could either get signal or whatever it is, find somebody?
So at first I had, and this is kind of this happens a lot out in that country where you're right on the fringe. The good news is a lot of the country I roam in is flat and wide enough open that there actually is a little bit of reception. So I was right in a spot where like at any given time, I might or might not have 1 or 2 bars of signal. So when I first did my call out and sent some GPS points out, I actually walked away from the Jeep a ways to get reception. And then when I got back to the Jeep, I was like, oh, hey, I got a little reception here. And
Yeah.
So
if I remember correctly, you had already taken some of your gear, your camp gear out and were getting set up, and you were able to make 2 more trips back in before it got to that where, like you said, it came through the firewall and really picked up.
I basically, once the flames came back up, like the second time in the engine compartment, like at that point, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get the fire out. So I went around to the back of the vehicle and got kind of my emergency pack and my water out, you know, and threw a few other things out that were in the back of the Jeep. And then I came around to the side door where I had like my cooler in there with and like my clothes bag and some stuff like that. And I think I literally had enough time to grab my cooler and my clothes bag before the flames came through. And I mean, I was pulling my clothes bag out of the Jeep when the flames were kind of up along the roof, you know, coming back. And
that's crazy.
I was about ready to start losing hair if I tried to take anything.
Yeah, I bet it was getting crazy hot.
The heat was insane.
Like tires catching on fire, the fabric, the rubber, like just everything. Wow.
How many rounds went off?
A lot.
That's my man.
Yes.
See, I just stuck around just for that shit, to tell you the truth.
That was entertaining.
I mean, that in itself would just that would make me giddy. But anyway, I have that twisted sense of humor. But it's like my neighbors when I tell my neighbors all know that if I ever have a house fire, they better evacuate the whole neighborhood because there's probably 600 pounds of gunpowder in my shop.
He is a licensed
I am licensed, fully licensed.
Yes.
Manufacturer.
Let's throw that out there, everybody that's listening.
Well,
Karens.
I just like to say that up until about a week ago, I had a lot of ammo and a lot of guns, but I went up to the lake with some buddies of mine. They
went fishing.
We went on a fishing trip. We were going to do a little target practice, and afterwards, and then we had a boating accident. Luckily, we all made it back to shore, but we lost all of our
all those guns. I saw a map, and maybe Lee sent it to me. I can't remember, but it was a map of the United States. And it showed where all the guns are, and it was all in the big bodies of water, like the Great Lakes. There was no guns anywhere else.
No.
Totally, yeah.
150 million AR-15s in this country, but they're all in the bottom of lakes and streams.
Yeah. At this point, the lakes and streams should be like have islands, metal islands, steel islands.
Yeah.
How long did it take somebody to come out and get you?
Oh, I got someone out there. I want to say it was like midnight, 2:00 in the morning that night. Did
you have marshmallows to roast while you were waiting?
I did not have any marshmallows, unfortunately.
They probably would have tasted horrible anyway. It's terrible that we're making a joke about your misfortune, but at this point, it's so far back in history that it's okay to make jokes about it. But anyway, I'm just glad you had signal or some means of getting out there to somebody. Although I don't
know. I think it adds to the adventure if he had to hike 20 miles.
That's what I was going to say. Even if he had to hike 20 miles, I think he was pretty well prepared for it.
Oh yeah. I mean, the only real difference would have been it just would have been taken longer for me to get, any kind of rescue. Like it would have been fine. I had my pack and everything, and I've backpacked and spent the night out of my backpack before. So I mean, to your point, it would have actually been made for probably even a cooler video.
Oh yeah.
So real quick, Lester has subscribed to your channel.
Awesome, man. Thanks, Lester.
Lester will get a lot out of it. He'll like the way you do your channel.
Yeah, awesome. He'll like it. And for those of you that don't know or don't subscribe to Casey's channel, Coyote Works, you need to go do that because like metal detecting and out on the trail and the history and his camp. See, Casey kind of, I think he's beat us to the punch on the campfire things, Michael, that we started, but he's got like a whole long history of them, and they're freaking great. So go subscribe to his channel. Anyway, so we got a few comments. Let's Nicholas says, "Hey, what's up, guys? Ryan, scary stuff. Yeah, could have been. I trust Jeeps.
Yeah, he's a Jeep guy.
Yeah, he's a Jeep guy.
Yep.
Bats is a Jeep guy.
Yeah, Bats is a Jeep. He's got a nice looking Jeep too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Ryan, I got about 8,000 to 9,000. You're probably not the only one either. I'm sure there's a lot of guys that have invested quite a bit in theirs. Bug out bag. Yeah.
And
did you have a fire extinguisher?
Yes, he did. But it was like fighting a water gun and a bonfire. It was insane.
It was, yeah. And now
I've always said a fire extinguisher is really only good to get you out of the vehicle. It's not good to save your vehicle, really. I mean,
Yeah,
you may be able to save it sometimes, but man,
really good friend of mine was actually a fire chief, and after I had that experience, I was talking to him about it, and he even said most of the time, like when they respond to vehicle fires, their first priority is just to try to keep them from catching anything else on fire around them. But he even said, like, modern vehicles, for the most part, once a fire gets started, gets into the passenger part of the vehicle, for sure, easy, like, it's gonna be without industrial foam or a fire truck or something. You're just not gonna put it out.
Yeah, it's a good practicing opportunity for him,
right?
I mean, really? I had a Jeep Liberty I would have let him practice on, but it didn't work out that way.
All things considered, his Jeep Liberty, he had it modded pretty good, and it I mean, really, it did a pretty good job.
There's
a Nissan guy.
Yeah, now now I got a Nissan Frontier and I love it, but every time I see Jeep Liberty with the squared headlights is the one I had, or a Jeep Commander. Every time I see one of those two, I'm like, oh, they're just so cool. I'm a nerd. I just like them, especially the Commanders. I don't like their drivetrain that much. I wish there was more you could do with them, but that Commander, to me, it was just like having a Troopy or something like that, the size and all that. But
yeah. No, they're not bad rigs. They're not bad rigs. Something, one thing how I feel is I feel like I'm just so stoked anytime anybody else is out there trying to enjoy the outdoors, that, the overland type experience or whatever. Like, one thing, man, you'll never catch me doing outside of, like, guys I know really well who we all know it's all in good fun, is like, I'm never going to be one of those guys to give people shit about their vehicle. Like, my philosophy is take whatever rig you have.
Oh, yeah.
Use the hell out of it. Go enjoy. I'm definitely not in the camp that says you have to have a certain model of a rig and it has to be built to a certain extent to go out and enjoy the outdoors. Like, throw a darn leg and,
you're totally fine.
Boy. He's coming around now.
Boy. There we go.
Is he sipping on something?
Show now.
Yes, sir. Hey, you know what? We're in the same boat you are. But that said, we do like to. It's probably more shit stirring than anything, ain't it?
Oh, I was gonna say we won't be
just
like, you can't hang out with us because you have that. We'll make fun of you.
Definitely.
But we're not gonna kick you out of the group because you're driving.
We're still gonna love you, even though you may be special needs or whatever. We still love you.
Right.
It doesn't matter. We want you in the group. So and we're kind of the same way. Just whatever makes you happy, and whatever, Michael's got a Nissan. Not very few people wheel a Nissan, but man, he's fixing his up and it looks great. I drive a diesel Colorado. I mean, they're out there, but I take my share of, heat for that. Matter of fact, I got some today from Brian Edwards. He's giving me hell about the Colorado.
Wow.
Then he said, I love you bunches anyway. So yeah, it's all in good fun. What's really cool though is here we got a question real quick for you, Casey. Hang on. It says at the Heap Jeep here, what's your rifle setup you're carrying on trips these days? Okay, so hey, that's a
great segue.
That's a great segue.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, I mean, it's rare that I'm ever going to be out in the field without I run a Daniel Defense. I think it's a V11. I couldn't even honestly tell you. It's a 16-inch barrel Daniel Defense, kind of a slightly upgraded one with a key mod handguard on it, and I have I think it's a Leopold Mark IV, like a patrol optic on it. Yep, set up basically almost identical to that.
Wow,
this is my 277 Wolverine.
Yep. So that's
Casey. I'll make you a deal. I'll load all these up and I'll come out there and you take me to the place and we'll shed some lead.
Oh man,
how about that?
We don't have to go far. Literally, I go like 10 minutes out my back door and can shoot whatever I want.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so that's the deal. So I really like that Daniel Defense AR-15. A lot of times also I'll throw a Remington 700 bolt action rifle in, just something that shoots a little bit longer range out there. I always enjoy that. And then I'm usually always going to have a shotgun and at least one handgun with me.
Yep, I'm with you. See, Michael, I'm not
You're talking-
crazy.
I never said you were.
No,
I never
but
said
there are
you
people
were.
who
Now-
do.
Yeah, that is for sure. Sorry, I just got a message. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here.
So
no worries. Hey, you know, one thing I would say about that is it is interesting to me how many comments that I get on my videos from people, and I'm not even saying they're not necessarily always negative or anything like that, but a lot of times, you know, people will ask why I have a gun out there in the woods. And one thing that's always so hard for me to convey to people is that from the time that I remember, I always had a gun in the woods. When I was, you know, 5, 6 years old, or whenever I got my first BB gun, it was always my BB gun, my pellet gun. Eventually,
that and a pocket
I got
knife.
old enough that I had a 22 rifle, and then I had a shotgun. I had an old single shot 20 gauge shotgun, then a 12 gauge. But literally, I would finish my chores at home, grab a backpack, throw some cans of pork and beans or whatever I could find in the pantry in it, grab my shotgun and head back onto, you know, BLM land to go exploring around. So, you know, all my life, guns and being outdoors have just, they've always gone together. And it's never really been about being afraid of anything or anything like that. It's just, you know, I don't know.
Natural.
I grew up in an environment where guys had guns in the woods, and it was just like, I don't know. It's, to me, it's more like having a pocket knife or whatever, you know.
Well, I mean, like in the overlanding world, you're going to be prepared. You're going to bring water. You're going to bring, you know, first aid. You're going to bring all these other things. That's just another level of being prepared. You know, whether you need it or not, or whether it's just, you know, like, hey, look, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to fire off a couple rounds because that's one thing that I enjoy also whenever I'm out. You know, now, do you hunt at all?
I have a lot in my life. I don't really anymore. No, I haven't much in recent years for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of a point that I wanted to make, that you're not going out there with these you're like, hey, I'm going to find what animal I can kill. You know, that's not the point, you know? And I think that's what a lot of people think. Oh, well, he's going to take a gun, and if he gets an opportunity, he's going to, you know, kill something. No, that's not why I have it.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You know, now Casey probably remembers this too. I don't know how old you are, but I'm gonna assume that you and I aren't too terribly far apart. But I can remember going to school and duck hunting before I went to class. My gun in the back of the truck.
Oh yeah, and then leave and go duck hunting after school or deer hunting. I mean, God, I can't tell you how many times I went to school and was in my camo because I came out of the woods, and if I shot a deer, then, well, it was an unexcused absence, but it was worth it, you know. And nowadays, you know, I mentioned something one day. Somebody made a comment about seeing prairie dogs out, and I was like, yeah. At about 400 yards with a 25-06, they do amazing acrobatics. Wow.
And
I was just saying we don't go out to kill things.
Well, but they're a nuisance.
That's one of my favorite animals.
Well, shit, dude, because they're a nuisance.
Wow, that got awkward there.
It really did. When I was like 2 years old, I jumped the fence. With me. I jumped the fence and chased after the prairie dogs at the zoo.
Yeah,
mom and dad were like, "Where is Michael?" And they see I was toe-headed, so it was white, and they see this little towhead bouncing, you know, above the concrete fence, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" So dad had to jump in. I was chasing, trying to get me a prairie dog and take one home.
Yeah, around here, that was something that growing up, I mean, I can't even tell you how many prairie dogs I shot. That was the ranchers around here literally would, I mean, they would everything short of actually paying you. I mean, there were some ranches, they would even give you all the 22 ammo that you wanted to shoot prairie dogs on their property.
Yeah.
It's
they
like
are a problem.
Hog hunting down here. The wild pigs are so bad down in the South that, I mean, the ranchers literally are begging people to come.
You can helicopter hunt.
Yeah.
and you can night scope hunt
Yeah.
if it's
Year
for wild
round.
hogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I get it, but yeah, people, I don't know. It's kind of weird how things have changed. And you're right. When you go camping like that, I think that's all I've ever known. Every time I've camped, I've always just I've had a gun or two or 10 or whatever. And it wasn't that I was crazy. It was just that this is just what you did,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, when you're
Well,
in
let's face it, most of the time we don't leave the house without one anyway. So
But you know what's
why
funny?
is camping any different?
Yeah,
Right.
you know what's funny is last year on one of our trips, everybody was like, "Hey, I'm going to camp next to Lee because we were in bear territory. I'm going to camp next to Lee because he's got the arsenal."
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's me. I'm taking care of me first. Kiss my ass. If you
I just need to know which way to run. That's all I'm asking.
and who to
I look at the
outrun.
group and I go, okay, which way is that bear going to go? All right, we get this figure. I need to entice that bear to go towards the other people so I can get out of here.
Who's the slowest runner? Just
Yeah.
beat
I'm
them.
thinking,
That's all you got to do.
if that bear is mauling someone else, I might just use that as an opportunity to pack up my camp and leave leisurely.
Yeah, I got time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's priceless.
It's Mason Berry. It's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That bear bit off more than he could chew. We love you, Mason.
Exactly.
Freedom
That's
is my
funny.
second favorite F word. Apparently,
Now-
it's Casey's as well.
Yeah. I got a question for you. You said that, you don't take it, because you're scared. That's not why you take your gun. But we've all had those butt pucker moments.
Oh yeah.
What's the most freaked out that you've been at camp by yourself? Like what noise? Was there a noise or something weird happening ever?
So I would say, generally speaking, what I, especially now, in more modern times, I guess, is the thing that I have the most fear about is like other people that I don't know. Like what I say a lot is out in the really remote country where I go, you run into two kinds of people out there, either really cool people just like us that are out there because they love it, that you're going to have a great conversation with and probably become friends with, or it's somebody out there because they're doing something they can't do anyplace else in the world.
Yeah.
So you're going to run into two kinds of people, really good people or really bad people. And probably my worst, one of my most scary experiences, if you will, was, waking up at night in my rooftop tent with somebody driving in a pickup truck down a 2-track dirt road that I was camped just maybe about 125 yards off of. And they were shooting. There was a whole group of people in the truck and they were shooting. Now, I don't know. My guess is they didn't even know that there was a camp there and they were just shooting at rabbits and drinking and whatever, But to me, that was that was like for a couple of minutes there, the pucker factor was I'm laying up here in a rooftop tent with absolutely no cover.
I got no cover. How do I get out, get down where I got cover?
Exactly, with bullets coming my direction. And like, is this where Coyote Works lays to rest? And
wait, you know how you always say no, but you know how he always says Coyote Works out?
Yeah.
Was this gonna be the out?
Yep. This is gonna be my last out.
Yeah.
Did you guys I'm changing gears. Did you guys see the SpaceX spaceship land the other day?
No.
That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So the spaceship that Elon is making that looks like a 1950s, like toy. I mean, that's what it looks like. Takes off. They do a test flight. Takes off and then falls back down to the ground. And as it's falling, it has to get to its belly and then turn back right side up. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but lands just like it took off. Like, in the same spot. I was just amazed.
They've had 4 or 5 of those have been unsuccessful. As it touched down, it was unsuccessful.
Yeah, but this one, this one did catch on fire, though. I mean, we don't talk about that.
I just saw my buddy Richard just popped up on the screen. He's a PDX trailer guy on Instagram. I think he follows you guys too.
Right on.
Richard, welcome to the show. We appreciate you slumming with us on the radio, brother.
Good to see you, Richard.
Now, speaking of Elon and all that, do you believe in aliens? Like when you get out there, do you see any weird stuff or hear any like?
If he did, do you think he's going to tell us? Because no, I mean, come
Well,
on.
he's pouring another glass, so I'm hoping.
Okay,
that we're
well, if
getting
he's
there.
drinking, maybe he will.
So this is probably gonna be even worse than that.
I was
Actually, it's
molested
like,
by Sasquatch. Don't tell us
man,
that story.
I'm German, so I'm convinced that there's a scientific or logical explanation for literally everything that happens in the world. So
Yeah.
I really, man, sometimes I really want to be superstitious. I really want to believe in some of this cool stuff like Sasquatch and UFOs and everything. And I try, but there's like that part of me that's just like, yeah, but where's the physical evidence? And I get hung up on
Well,
that.
they're
So
in June. The Pentagon's going to release all of their information on UFOs.
I'm excited to see what they got.
They
Yeah.
just came out with a video of it flying over some Navy building, these pyramids. Like they look like pyramids that are blinking. And they're flying around. They're doing movements that nothing has ever been able to do before. And you might have heard about the TikTok that the pilot, you know, they went to go check out and it was like went from like 8,000 feet or 80,000, whatever it was, to like 1 foot above sea level. And then went to the place that they were going to meet.
So, Casey,
Anyway, I can get fired up.
Just to clarify Michael's position here, his truck broke down yesterday, and he was stuck in the sun for a really long time.
Yeah. My work truck was broke.
I think he's slightly dehydrated, and you know when you get dehydrated, you become kind of, you know.
Well, if anybody's going to be abducted, it's going to be Casey.
No, it's going to be you.
Because he's going to all of these like artifacts, you know.
Yes.
He's like Indiana Jones in it a little bit. And
all right, so let's ask you this. Casey, have you seen the video of the Land Cruiser and the two guys that were transporting cash in South Africa that took fire?
Yeah, I still haven't seen it.
No,
guys, you got to go see this. These two dudes kept their cool and they got ambushed transporting
Obviously
cash.
trained drivers for
very heavily trained,
you know,
and
military
this
or
Land
whatever.
Cruiser had bulletproof glass and everything, and I mean you could see the glass shattering right by this guy's head driving, and all. I didn't know if you'd seen it or not. I was just going to get your.
But I'm going to look it up after we get off the show.
Oh my God! This guy, his balls have got to be about that damn big. I mean, that was the most. It was crazy.
I've spent quite a bit of time down in South Africa, and I remember on one of my trips down there, I was cruising down this street in Johannesburg, and we got to this one intersection. And as we started approaching the intersection, you know, the other guys in the rig started kind of getting their guns ready and everything. And then I was asking the guy, "What's up? You know, is this potentially a bad intersection?" And he was telling me a story about how there was an element there that was hitting armored trucks. And what they were doing was they were basically boxing the armored truck in with a couple of vehicles. And then they were just covering it with Molotov cocktails, setting it on fire and waiting until the people opened the doors and came out of it. And they were basically trucks transporting like precious stones and stuff. But
when you see this video, it's going to remind you of that, because that's what they did. They tried to box him in. And but I'm telling you, these two guys, stone cold. And the guy that was in the passenger seat, this black guy, he was, I mean, he had this look of like, fuck it. It's all, you know, armored up. He just didn't get excited. The guy driving, he was a special forces guy, and he got a little bit, you know, hard with the shifts. And I mean, he was really getting into it, but man, they kept their cool, and they at the end, the Land Cruiser got stuck after they did some maneuver, and that guy in the driver's seat, he jumped out with that AR. Man, he's fixing to mow him down, and they took off. It was great, nice. And it was just great. So anyway, I didn't know if you'd seen that or not.
Well, I haven't. What am I going to search for to find it?
South African. Hang on a minute. I think it's just like.
You know, if we're on Joe Rogan's show, Jamie would have it pulled up and he'd be showing it to us.
Yeah, well, I ain't Jamie, so kiss my ass.
That's a solid point, man.
I mean, you know, I'm just saying we're trying to be big time. So, I mean, We could use a
I know,
Jamie, I
but
guess.
Michael likes to try to bust my balls.
Well, I mean, of course. We warned him this was going to happen. So as you're looking up that, when you started rebuilding your Jeep, what was like a piece of gear that you were like, if I can't have anything, I have to have this?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Well, I mean, the obvious answer is another fire extinguisher for the next rig. But beyond that, I would say, probably for camping out of the vehicle, the rooftop tent. It's kind of the base of the system. If we're just talking just gear that's nice to have, wanted it. That was probably the first major piece of gear that I wanted to get set back up on it.
And when you started, rebuilding, did you go completely like with what you had before, or did you take the time to research and change maybe the type of cooking stove you're using or anything like that? Did you change things up a little?
I changed things up a little bit, but I would say more how I changed things up was kind of trimming some things down a little bit more, and it kind of goes back to that thing, over a number of years of kind of camping out of the same vehicle, you just, over time, what tends to happen is you tend to add pieces of camping gear, but when you add pieces of gear, you don't necessarily always take another piece out.
Yeah.
So it was really kind of a
Jeep start riding like this.
Yeah, to go back to the basics and really start saying, okay, what do I need to be comfortable at? What do I need to survive out there and be comfortable? And so really kind of strip it all back down to, I almost think about it like backpacking out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the basics. And so I really did, a good number of months or whatever, doing some really camping with really basic gear out of it, and then very selectively kind of added more stuff. And some stuff I add, is like luxury items. And I would say one thing I did change a little bit is I kind of went to this system where I made some modules for some gear that I do like to take sometimes, but I don't want it all the time. Like, for example, one thing that's gotten kind of popular in my videos is a lot of people really enjoy the camp cooking that I do. And I joke around. I'm not by any means any kind of a cook or anything like that. But I always like to say, I'm like a chef, so I got to have the right, the gear.
Yeah.
But I'm like a chef in that I feel like I can make almost anything palatable to me. That's not necessarily given that anyone else will like it.
Don't even ask Michael about cooking at camp, because
I'm a great cook.
What?
Great.
A great cook? You don't even carry food with you.
Why would I carry food with me?
Because I always feed you.
Yeah. Actually, that's not true, because at least one time, I had the food because you
had the steaks one time.
Yeah.
But I still had the asparagus and all.
But I've had excuses most of those times.
It's Casey. Here's what it boils down to. It's like, hey, buddy, you want to go have lunch? Sure. We'll go eat. Oh, damn. I forgot my wallet. Can you cover me this time? And it happens every time.
Oh, man. That reminds me. I used to have this buddy. I used to call him $2 Chuck, because his line was like, hey, you want to go out to lunch? And you go out to lunch. And
I only have $2.
You ate, he would be like, oh, hey, man, all I have is $2. Do you mind spotting me for the rest? And I don't know why it was just like the most random coincidence in the world that every single time I went to lunch with the guy, he only had $2 in his wallet.
Michael doesn't have $2. Hilarious. We just call him Hooch the Mooch.
Hooch the Mooch. Now, this doesn't happen in restaurants. It only happens at campsite. I have this theory. So we go to this thing called Natural State Rendezvous. It's in Arkansas. It's in October. It is a blast, and it is growing like crazy. But I made the comment that I don't need to bring food to this event, because all you have to do is walk around, and there's so many. Like, there were almost 700 rigs last year, I think, or that's what they're shooting for this year. There's so many people there that all you have to do is walk around. People are like, hey, I got extra food. You want some? So it doesn't make any sense to bring your own.
Yeah,
and
man,
they have a
my,
restaurant there. So
And they have
you
a
know,
restaurant there.
if it happened, you could always just go to the restaurant.
And,
And get something to eat.
if you're not careful, Michael will swap his tent for your tent, and you won't even know it because
You're
he'll do it
colorblind.
dark.
Yeah,
You're
I've done that.
colorblind, and you'll
I've
do
done
it
that
the
before.
dark of the night, right, Chris Holloway? Anyway,
Yeah, that was still the funniest thing I've ever done.
yeah, we there's lots.
He's
of shenanigans.
colorblind, and we
I
both.
feel like I need to hear this story.
Yeah, so
Let's
he's
tell it after.
colorblind.
We've already told it. Tell it afterwards.
No, I'm telling it now.
Okay,
We
tell
got
it
new
now,
listeners. Okay, so we both have Gazelle tents, the T4. And at the time, now I've got a couple of different rooftop tents. But anyway, we had the T4 Gazelle tents. I have the green one, and he had the orange one. And I was like, man, I really wanted the orange one, but they were out of them, so I had to get the green one. And he was like, well, I really wanted the green one, but I got the orange one. And so I was like, huh. So that night, I got our group to go into each tent, pull everything out, and put it back in there the way it was, but we moved the tents. And so
awesome.
I had forgotten that he's colorblind. But the tents are different years, so the pocket sizes inside are different. Mine's older, so the pockets are smaller. His is newer, and the pockets are bigger. So he gets in, he comes in, he's drunk, first of all. He's been drinking all night. And he gets in his tent, and he takes his jacket off, and he goes to put it in the pocket, and it was like, that didn't go into the pocket that easy.
That's weird.
That's
But that's
weird.
as far as it went.
But like all of his change was in the little dome tent, the little hammock there to put your stuff in. That was there. Everything was fine. The only thing that he was like, huh, was his gear bag. The loop of it, the handle or whatever, was wrapped around or underneath the cot leg. So he was like, well, now maybe I got a little overzealous when I pushed it under the bed and rocked it. Maybe that happened.
This poor guy.
What was it that finally got him? Because it wasn't the pockets. It wasn't. He heard you guys laughing.
He heard us laughing.
So he gets outside.
Yeah.
And he gets a flashlight, and he's colorblind, but maybe it's a shade of gray he can see. So he's like super close to the tent looking at it. And then the whole campfire just erupts in laughter.
That is awesome.
And he was like, damn it. and I still have
the tent. There it is.
I still have the orange one because that next morning he slept in and I had to go. I was like, dude, what are we going to do? And he was like, just take it and we'll figure it out later. And that's been since October.
Yeah.
Well, you'll relate to this then. It sounds like you're kind of a grazer like I am. So I learned years and years ago that, you talk about EDC gear, but I learned years ago that when you're going around at various people's camps who are camped by you, like they're usually real generous with food. And a lot of times they have paper plates, but oftentimes what they don't have is silverware. A lot of people don't
I
bring,
carry a fork and spoon with me everywhere I go.
I always carry a fork and a spoon on me when I'm camping in groups of people.
Yeah.
And then I just walk around, whether it's at Northwest Overland or my Coyote Works group trip or whatever. I just walk around with my fork and the spoon, and people say, "Oh, hey man, we got some extra food," and I'm like, "I'm good to go, man."
Well, apparently you two were cut from the same cloth. Then, damn it!
I was on a date once, and we had met to go get something to eat, and then she said, "Hey, I've got a surprise for us," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And she had bought this cake. And so we go out to her car and she's going to her place. Let's just throw that out there. But she gets this cake out. I know. We fix that later. But anyway,
it's his story. He just tells it differently every time.
So she gets this cake out and then she's like, crap, the restaurant's closed because we closed the restaurant down and she was like, we didn't get any forks. I was like, oh, don't even worry. I opened up the back door to the truck and I got 2 sets of forks and spoons for camping. She was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? I was like, yeah, I'm prepared always. So
perfect, man.
It's like Joey off of Friends. Whenever they go in, they're eating that cake off the floor and he squats down and he gets his fork or spoon out and he goes, what are we having?
Hey, look at the comment Bobby just left.
Yep, there we go.
Oh, damn.
It happens, man. It's the
That's
Santa
funny.
Claus beard is what it is. That's what does it.
Yeah. Casey, I don't know. You ever been and wheeled down in this part of the world, Oklahoma, Arkansas, any of that area?
I haven't, man. I got a buddy, Joe, that lives up in Tennessee, so kind of down around the Franklin area. So I went out and spent some time with him, and we went out in his Jeep a little bit. But now I've always wanted to get back there a little bit more. You guys have that cool kind of eastern woodland, those hardwood forests and stuff.
Yeah.
And
He'd like Bub's place.
He'd like,
Yeah.
That trail.
So it's an old homestead that's been kept period correct.
Yeah.
And it's full. I mean, it's like complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love stuff like
and
that.
the old school.
Yeah, the old school. So this place had been there for, I can't even remember, forever. And the deer still come and lick the ground out the back door because that's where they cooked. There's so much still salt and everything just embedded in that soil that they come and still lick the ground.
Yeah, it's a really neat place, and the trails are it's the terrain is nothing like what you're used to, or at least what we see, most of the time. It's dense, it's very narrow.
Waterfalls everywhere.
Waterfalls everywhere, water crossings everywhere. You sleep on these gravel bars right along, the river, and there's ticks that'll just suck you up like a raisin before it's all over with if you're not careful. And but it's a freaking beautiful place, and it's a blast. There's just miles and miles and miles of trails.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should.
That is one thing that has kind of come as a result of my YouTube channel, the Coyote Works YouTube channel and stuff is, I've started to really develop some cool relationships with people scattered all over, the United States, and then even to a degree internationally. And that's one thing that I want to do in the years ahead is really start making some trips out, utilizing those relationships to get out, do some more like collaborative kind of trips and videos, and just see some more different kinds of different parts of the country and everything. I love doing that. I love exploring and seeing new places. And that's been kind of an unintended consequence, or something that, I didn't ever really anticipate, was all the really cool relationships.
I'd say that's a bonus.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I started my All Over Overland Facebook group, was just to be able to, to learn more about overlanding, because I didn't know a bunch about it, but to develop those friendships in different parts to where I could call up and say, hey, look, I'm going to be in your area. Do you want to go camp with me? You want to show me around, or can you tell me, a spot that I need to hit, like all that stuff.
Yeah. No.
And then if you break down, you've got somebody maybe close that can actually come help.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you,
there is that.
You ever pulled a trailer and camped, like using a trailer? I can't recall that I've ever seen one.
Nope. That's one thing I've never done. I've never camped that way.
Grandpa's truck would pull a nice trailer.
I know, I've been thinking about that. That was one of the thoughts behind Grandpa's truck, was to kind of set it up to camp in a little bit different style, a little bit more mobile, and maybe with not quite the off-road capabilities necessarily.
Right.
So that is one thing that I've thought about. Free Spirit Recreation, they sponsor me and have for years and years and years. And a great company, really enjoy the owners and everything, and have a good relationship with them. They make some pretty cool trailers, and they've kind of, constantly thrown it out there that if I would be interested, they'd provide me with one. And so I feel like maybe, that might be another one of those things that I need to just give it a try and try to dip my toes in the water.
Tony says you need to get some Arkansas pinstripes on the rig. And John says, plenty of history. You need to come down here. Lots of good trails. Bobby says maybe an Opus. Bobby, you read my mind. You read my mind.
Lee is Mr. Opus. You are Mr. Opus.
Isn't there across? Yeah, that's what I got called Opus Dawn Opus, or something like that. Like Dawn. I don't know, whatever that means. But anyway,
like a mobster thing.
Yeah. Isn't there a cross country route that's mainly off road, East Coast to West Coast, or vice versa? Is that
Transamerica.
Transamerica? I think is what you might be thinking about, Richard. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think doesn't a pretty good
Yeah.
portion of that kind of goes along the old Oregon Trail?
I think it split some. Where's it split? Like Utah.
I want to say maybe it's when it leaves Kansas.
Somewhere, but
maybe
it splits.
Missouri, Kansas or Missouri. That
Yeah,
would make
because it
sense.
dips into
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then I think like somewhere in there. Anyway,
Yeah.
I can't, I'm not for sure. But now I do have another question about the fire and about after the fire. Did you automatically and didn't have to think about it and you knew that you were going to go with the Jeep, or was there something else you considered?
Oh, you should watch the video.
When it came
Yeah,
time to rebuild.
after the fire.
You know, I did really think about that, what kind of a rig I wanted to go with. I contemplated going back to like a 1/2-ton pickup truck. I really kind of kicked that around, thinking about like a Ford Raptor or the Dodge Power Wagon pickup,
Yeah.
you know, something with some good capabilities. But at the end of the day, I for the way my style, that kind of mid-size SUV configuration works really well. So when I kind of came back around to that and said, yeah, this is really what works best for me, because I go out in every possible weather condition and everything, being able to put most of my gear inside the vehicle is a really good program.
Yes.
And once I came back to that, it was like, yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, there's really not a lot of choices out there. I mean, you got your Tacomas, and I know they have a lot of fanboys, but around here, basically, college girls drive 4Runners and Tacomas. So
That's awesome. I love the little dig. I like it.
I'll just let that hang there.
Yeah, just let that simmer. Let that simmer.
Yeah, let me throw some fuel on the fire. I bought a new Toyota 4Runner and then sold it because it wouldn't tow anything.
Yeah, soccer moms and college girls around here drive those, man. No real self-respecting backcountry redneck would be caught driving a 4Runner out in the back.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
I think he just threw down the gauntlet.
Wow.
I love
Not
it.
only did we have gas on the fire, but he comes strolling in with a 30-foot flamethrower.
And basically,
Oh
I'm saying that in part because if I had $1 for every person who left a comment on my Jeep Fire video saying that I should have got a Toyota, I would be a wealthy man.
Yeah, I'm sure. There's a lot of. It's funny how there's a lot of passion.
Does your buddy Richard have a Toyota?
Richard has a Toyota.
That's why he says, hey, like, oh wait, now.
Now, I will tell you that whenever I got rid of the Liberty and I was going into the Nissan, there's nothing worse than trying to figure out what rig you're going to buy next when you have to. Like, it's one thing when you're sitting around the campfire and you're like, I'd love to have a 60 series. I'd love to have this.
Right.
But it's another thing whenever you're like, oh, crap.
Right.
I don't have a rig. I need a rig. What am I going to buy? And then how am I going to build it out? Because you build an SUV out different than you build a truck out. It just,
Look at AJ.
I'm watching
AJ, whoa, so much. AJ's a good friend of ours. Yeah. AJ's a good friend of ours. And he's this guy, he's a Toyota guy, and he can restore the old Land Cruisers like nobody's business. I mean, frame up, gorgeous. What's he got now? Is it a 60?
60. He's got a couple 60 series. That's what he's kind of focusing
you talking
on.
Gorgeous.
And I tell you, man, going back to the whole like South Africa thing and the African continent and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Toyotas there are hands down. I mean, everybody, virtually everyone there, predominantly who's serious about any kind of, ranching, backcountry, overlanding is driving Toyotas. Now, they're driving Toyotas that we can't get here, which is unfortunate. But yeah, man, and all kidding aside, man, I have nothing against Toyotas. I've seen a lot of Toyotas that have, gone some cool places. A really good buddy of mine, Richard, who's on here. Richard has a badass Tacoma. My buddy Matt, you guys have seen him in a few of my videos. He has like a bone stock, and it's a 4-wheel drive Taco, but it's not even like their off-road package or anything like that. And man, he has followed me into some shit in that truck, and he just
That's
put a
awesome.
decent set of mud terrains on it. And I mean, there at the end of the day, I mean, all kidding aside, and I know that there's a lot of strong opinions about this, but it's tough to find a midsize SUV configuration that's more capable than a Jeep Rubicon. Like
Yeah.
that's just the bottom line. The solid axles, the suspension system, the disconnecting sway bars, the locking differentials front and rear, the way the suspension travel is. I mean, they have awesome flexibility and everything just right out of the factory, and you know that's just tough to beat.
So when I went to Moab. I was in Moab for Easter Jeep Safari, and I went and took a look at this new electric Jeep. What do you think of the electric Jeeps?
I'm not ready to sign up for the electric
Thank
thing
you.
yet.
Thank you.
It'll happen, but not for what we're doing. Not yet.
I get it. And we'll do another show and have you on and we'll talk about that whole thing. But yeah, I just don't see the amount of fossil fuel that it takes to mine the lithium for the batteries and the amount of
I said this once that you think about solar systems and where they were 5 to 10 years ago to where they are right now.
Still hadn't come that
and
far.
if but each time it's not the same level of jump. You know, like it may have been like this, but they get to a point where they find something and then it turns and it goes like this, you know. So the increase will be drastic. If you think about the landscape of the world and how long we've been here, we've only had motorized vehicles for 100 and something years.
Yeah.
You know,
no, it's that curve like you're talking about. I forget. It's been too long since my college days, but there's a name for that curve where
bell curve or
as
something.
We progress on the curve, it gets progressively, you know, kind of infinitely a steeper curve, and our gains are incrementally bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. And
so I mean, just with that, and I mean, you think about this little electric car is going to go 0 to 60 in less than 6 seconds, man. Or in less than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds, all electric. They've taken this Tesla out, and I'm just talking about the car. So we're talking about how the technology is getting there, and it is beating the demon.
Isn't that crazy?
Like not even like, I mean, like the takeoff is insane. I rode in one the other day, so I'm kind of on this kick. And the girl that was driving said, "Put your head back all the way." And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Yeah." And her kids are in the back seat going, "Yeah." And so she nails it. And it was the fastest thing I've ever sat in my life.
Wow.
That's what he says about all the women. I'm teasing, man.
Hey guys, I do have to, I hate to say this, but I got my kid with me today, so I'm going to have to jump off.
Oh, okay.
And so you guys enjoy. It was nice talking to you. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Love you like a hooker, man. Brother.
You too. A pleasure, man.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Oh, yeah. Thursday nights aren't his normal night, Casey. So anyway, but yeah, we've come up on about just a little over an hour, actually, and it goes by pretty quick, especially when you're having a good time. But let's see what we got for questions real quick before we wrap everything up. AJ, that's what no kidding. He carries a generator to the trunk. Okay, so this is in reference to the guy that ran out of gas with his Tesla. He had a generator in his car to charge it, but he ran out of gas in the generator, and then the car died too. So there is that. One quick thing, real quick. What's your preferred everyday carry?
I carry a right here, man. The only so this is my Glock 19X. I did a little bit of a modification to the grip, just removed the step down. I did that myself. And then the only difference is that I slap a flashlight on it if I'm going to be going out and it's going to be dark or low light. So
what holster are you using? Do you have the like a holster that's adapted for the light?
I do. During the day at the office, I just carried in this as a better light tuck holster, and this holster just works really well for normally at the office. I'm wearing jeans with a button-down shirt tucked into them, so this holster conceals really well appendix with my shirt tucked in. So that's what I carry during the day around the office and stuff. And then any other time I have it's actually a T-Rex arms. I think it's a Raptor appendix carry light bearing holster. So
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, before the show started, when Casey came on the camera, he was looking a little bougie. He had a nice button-down shirt, and he was he was. So Michael and I both were like, "Damn, we've never seen a button-down shirt." So Casey goes and changes.
well, it's usually the first thing I do when I walk in the door from the office anyway, is I put on something a little bit more casual. I usually honestly go out and do a little hike or a little drive or something first thing when I get off work to kind of wind down. So it's par for the course, but I didn't want you guys to give me too much shit for too long.
It's okay. It's all good fun. Trust me. Oh, there's days I get, huge. Frankie said, now Frank,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Frankie, Frankie's a cool guy. You get down to Arkansas, you probably need to find him because he has a rental company. You can go down and rent a 110 Defender with a rooftop tent loaded out, ready to go. You can rent an old Volkswagen.
Oh, man.
You can rent.
You could rent doing it just to drive a Defender.
I know. I think he's got 2 of them now, but you could rent his red Toyota 4Runner if you wanted to, but I would suggest either the 110 or the van, the Volkswagen. I'm a Volkswagen guy. I like German engineering, love German engineering. We got 3 Volkswagens, but that Volkswagen he's got is pretty cool. But the 110 Defenders, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So you can rent those bad boys and go camp.
Well, that's cool, Frankie, man. That's definitely something I would be interested in doing. That sounds like a lot of fun. I've always liked those Defenders. Never have driven one. I don't even know that I've ever even sat in one. So that would be a cool experience.
He had one this last year at the Moore Expo. And that's something you ought to consider doing one day if you get in it's cold and dreary up there in your neck of the woods. Is come down here. We have this big indoor expo, and what we have 3,500 people came through the door the first day, and it's big. I mean, we had Red Arc had a whole big spread. Artemis had a big spread. Overland Attic. You had all CB Adventure Supply down in Dallas. There's big time stuff. So. Yeah, here it is. 1984 VW Westy, and the Defender's a 91 D110 TDI, so it's turbo diesel too.
Awesome.
Even better. I love the smell of diesel.
Then I noticed on Frankie's last comment, he said something about he was commenting on the fact that a lot of times about finding arrowheads and putting them back down, and this is something that I feel pretty strongly about, so I wanted to say something if I could about that. So first of all, man, that's awesome, Frankie, that you noticed that and appreciated that. But yeah, for me, man, like I'm just more about, I love to enjoy the history and the things that I find out there in the environment. And like, to me, the thrill is in finding them and in learning the pieces of the story that they tell. I'm not a collector. I'm not a relic hunter. I'm not, a few places. I've got some friends that have ranches that have old homesteads on them. That's where I'll get literally like the bottles and cans you see up there behind me is about the extent of all of the relics that I have in my possession. And it's so really the 2 reasons is just, for me, the thrill is in finding them out there in their environment. And then I just feel like most of the places where I go, no one else is probably ever going to find them, but I like the idea that if somebody else does, they're going to be as excited. They're likely going to be as excited as me out there. So I don't know. It's just something it's kind of my thing. It's kind of the same deal as why I don't really hunt much anymore. It's, I eventually got to a point in life where, hopefully I'm sure some people get offended by this, but I've killed a lot of big game animals in my life, and all of them ethically, and all of them, all of that stuff.
Sure.
And most of them eaten and everything. That's how I grew up. But anymore, I love seeing the animals out there. I love watching them.
Yeah.
I'm not against other people hunting or anything. I just for me, it's kind of been there, done that. And I've found so many hundreds and hundreds of arrowheads over the years. Like,
Can you
It's
imagine
just,
what they've hunted with those arrowheads or what?
yeah,
And it's
man.
funny that Frankie, it's funny that you posted that comment because Michael and I had that conversation, and I actually had forgot to bring it up earlier when we were talking about you going out. But Michael and I had that conversation about how neat it was that you would find it, show it, talk about it, and then put it back down, for somebody else to hopefully find one day.
Yeah,
And that's, I think, human nature. That's a little bit tough because you've connected with that relic, that arrowhead or whatever it is, because you found it. It's like finding a big shark's tooth at the beach. You found it. Now you feel like, well, this is part of me and I'm part of it. And one thing or another, but yeah, it's really cool that you do that. I admire it. And, I wish a lot more people would do it. You take the picture, just kind of like when you go bass fishing, you take the picture of the big bass and you put it back in the water.
Yep, yep. I
That's
don't
pretty
know
neat.
if you guys see on my Instagram, I post a lot of pictures where I just hold up an artifact and take a picture of it. Well,
Yep.
I don't just take those pictures so I can post them on Instagram. I take those pictures because those are my memories of those things that I found
Right.
too. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of my thing now is I snap that picture. And every time I look at that picture, I remember, that thing. And a lot of times when I save them, I even put notes on them and stuff like that for really cool stuff. Every once in a while, I'll be someplace where I can pick up like an artifact or an arrowhead and keep it. And I'll tell you that literally the only time I do is every once in a while I'll know somebody. Maybe it's a follower on my channel or somebody that's just really expressed an interest and has never seen one or has never had one. So every once in a while, I'll bring one home to give to someone. And
That's cool. That really is cool.
yeah.
Well, we've come up at about an hour 15. I'd like to thank you for joining us. And for those of you who are joining in and haven't heard, but we have Casey with Coyote Works. I'd like for you to go out and check out his Instagram. It's Coyote_Works. If I were at his Instagram, and then Facebook, I think it's just Coyote Works, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm terrible about Facebook, though. Don't go to my Facebook page. Go to my Instagram or my
Just
YouTube.
go to Instagram. Call it good.
Yeah, or YouTube.
Or YouTube. Yeah, I was gonna say next is YouTube. Go to his YouTube channels, hit that subscribe button, and get to watching his videos. He's got a ton of great videos that have so much information and so many cool things that he's gone out and explored and done. And I really do appreciate you joining us tonight. I'm grateful that you gave us your time. I know you're busy and you got a lot going on. Thanks for answering my messages after we exchanged. That was after Marco, I believe, when we had Marco on. And so we'd love to have you come back and do it again. And maybe we dive deeper into, focus in on one trail, or we can play some video of it and one thing or another if you like. And anyway, yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for listening. And we'll see you next week. So thanks again, Casey.
Thank you, man. It was a pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Had fun with you guys.
All right. Let me get everything done here and we will be back.